So if you didn't keep track of things when you were taking it apart, there's 4 of these bolts which attach the barrel to the handle and also the handle to the bottom black part. There's some other bolts that are just slightly shorter, so don't get those confused. Your 4 longest bolts that come with these little white plastic things, what goes through the barrel, and so that's the first step, is to put everything back together with those bolts. Carriage bolt, push it through, and then use this white thing to hold it in place so it'll stay there while we turn this upside down and put the arms on. So those little white retaining washers make it possible to do this step without 5 hands. These guys are identical, so it doesn't matter which way you go. If your outside looks nicer than your inside, you might arrange it a particular way, but it doesn't really matter. And then this last bit goes on. So every nut here has they're all exactly the same, and they kind of have a lock washer type adapter thing on the end here that if you tighten them down will kind of bite into things. I'm going to be using some Loctite on the thread locker on these when I put them on, just to make sure they're not going to come off later, at least not easily. Now I only put those on finger tight because if you put pressure on this, these slots will slide to the front. And I want to turn this thing upside down, put a little weight in it, so hopefully those things will be pushed forward, and then tighten these things down. Because that's the way, when weight's in it and you're having it on the ground, that's the way it's going to be pushing. So I think I want the inside of these slots up against those bolts when I have it tightened down. But to make it easy to put the weight in and for things to balance, I need to put the wheel and the front support on as well. Alright, there's 6 of these slightly shorter carriage bolts, and 4 of them hold those 2 axle mounts on, 2 of them hold this front piece on. And the only tricky bit you have to remember is that when you're putting the axle mounts in, they're also holding these guys. So you need to put those in and up through here to get it down to there when you're You'll notice I only put one of those 2 axle mounts on because this is the point where you need to put the axle and wheel on. So if you're putting the original wheel on, this is easy. If you're putting a replacement run-flat wheel on, you might need some black plastic adapters to space the wheel evenly in between the axle, because this wheel is a little bit narrower than the original one. Alright, turned out I only needed 2 pieces of plastic on either side of the wheel, and all you have to do when you bolt it down is make sure it's mostly straight with the rest of the wheelbarrow. If you're wondering where the 6 short bolts go, 4 of them hold this guy on, and 2 of them stick out from inside the barrel part to hold these little brackets on. So I put enough weight in the wheelbarrow so these guys, the slot is mostly in the front, and this bolt is touching the back because this thing got bent down. I'm going to tighten it up in that position. The short bolts go through here. You'll notice they have a slot for a number 1 screwdriver to hold them while you're tightening them, because these guys do not have little square cutouts. So if you don't have a number 1 flathead, a quarter would probably work as well.